Ken Davidoff of the New York Post with Armen Levack on 104.5 The Team, your home for New York sports. Ken is in Port St. Lucie, Florida with the New York Mets. And Ken, go ahead, man, rub it in our face. How's the Florida weather today? How's it looking?
It's cloudy today, about 60 degrees, so I wouldn't be too jealous.
60 degrees, though. You know the New York weather. I don't have to explain it to you. So we would take 60 degrees at this point.
Fair enough.
All right, Ken Davidoff, New York Post. Ken, all right, so Curtis Granderson says earlier this week that the Mets are primed for a quote-unquote New York takeover. Ken, how close are the Mets primed for a New York takeover?
Yeah, I don't know what that really means, but I do think the Mets, there's a reasonable chance the Mets will be better than the Yankees this year. The Mets have an impressive stable of young pitching. The lineup should be better. Bullpen looks good, so it seems like the worst case scenario would be about 500 team, and whereas the Yankees, I think their worst case scenario was last place.
Speaking of that stable of pitching, how is Matt Harvey looking in his return?
As we speak, he is throwing batting practice to his teammates. The guys are not swinging; they're just tracking pitches, but he looks good. The delivery looks smooth. The juice looks there, so to be there. So far, so good for Harvey's return.
Also, other Tommy Johns out there. Bobby Parnell, what's his ETA in return?
ETA is by May 1st. He obviously got his surgery far more recently than Harvey did. Harvey was October of 2013. Parnell was April of last year. So the Mets don't want to rush him back. I think best case scenario, he's back May 1st.
Ken Davidoff with Armen Levack on 104.5 The Team of the New York Post. Hey, Ken, you wrote this week about a guy that can be a late-game secret weapon for the Mets this year. Tell us about this new addition.
Yeah, John Mayberry Jr., I think he's a name well known to diehard baseball fans. His father, John Mayberry, was a productive slugger in the 70s for Kansas City and Toronto. And John Mayberry Jr. Is a role player. He's a righty hitter who really hits lefties well and also is a very good pinch hitter. So he's a good fit for the Mets. Mets needed some righty pop, and they love the idea of having a veteran bench guy. Now that they have a team that they're hoping will contend.
In that infield, you got Daniel Murphy, contract extension talks possible during the season. What's the likelihood he stays a Met or gets shipped off?
The only way he would get traded is if the Mets season is a disaster and they're out of contention by July 31st. And then I think they would absolutely entertain trades, but they're very much hoping that's not the case this year. Beyond this year, I would bet on Murphy signing elsewhere next season, but remember, we still have 6 months of data to compile before that actually comes into play. I don't think he'll sign an extension during the season.
Ken Davidoff of the New York Post with Armen Levack at Ken Davidoff on Twitter. Ken, you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation about the talent of starting pitchers that the Mets have. How do they compare against the Nationals' starting pitcher staff? Is one of the best in the National League?
Yeah, they finished second to the Nationals in starting pitching for the Nationals. Starting rotation is preposterously good. When you talk about adding Scherzer to Zimmerman and Strasburg, Doug Fister, and who am I even leaving out there? Gosh,
Gonzalez or Rourke?
Oh, Gio Gonzalez, of course. Yeah, Rourke's going to the bullpen. Gio Gonzalez is the guy I forgot. Thank you. So, but that's just a phenomenal starting rotation. The Mets starting rotation has huge upside, but it can't match up to the Nationals.
With the Mets starting rotation, they have 7 guys possibly that could be starting pitchers. They have 5 spots. Is that sometimes a bad thing to have that much talent for one area? There's 6 veterans going for 5 spots, and it's a very clear pecking order. I mean, if everyone is healthy, Dylan G will be the odd man out. He's a long reliever or he's a trade candidate. So it's not that much drama just because there's a clear hierarchy there. Gotcha.
Is there a chance Bartolo Colon's the opening day starter for the Mets?
I guess there's a chance, but I wouldn't bet too much on that one.
David Wright, his health, how's he doing?
So far, so good. He says the shoulder feels great, and he says he's getting all the medical clearance, and so far it's just been batting practice and defense. So we'll have a better measure once the games start, which I believe is Thursday.
Clearly, as we've put, the Nationals are the cream of the crop with that pitching staff and Harper. Would you be shocked if the Mets were able to take a wild card and make it to the postseason?
No, I would not be shocked at all if the Mets won a wild card. I would be shocked if they won the division. The Mets are obviously a candidate to win the wild card. Yes.
Ken Davidoff, New York Post. Follow him on Twitter at Ken Davidoff. He'll be between the Yankees and the Mets all spring long. Ken, man, we look forward to following your stuff all spring, and we're ready for some baseball. I know you are too, so let's get it going, man. Thanks for joining us today.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good day.